Ever feel like, sometimes rules are just made to be broken? What about when it comes to government work?
Oh, especially government work.
Right. Today we're diving into this fascinating Supreme Court case here in the Philippines. And it kind of went viral, because it makes you think, can doing the right thing actually get you fired?
Yeah. This one really got people talking online.
I did. It did.
So you've got basically a whole stack of legal documents about this government employee, Estrella Domingo. She was fired from her job, but then fought back all the way to the Supreme Court.
And she won.
She did. But it's not as simple as good guy wins. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's always more to the story.
Yeah, so we're going to unpack all of that, like why this case sparked so much debate.
Okay, so buckle up because we're diving deep into this whole thing. Alleged misconduct, accusations of dishonesty, and then what even counts as official, in the eyes of the law.
Yeah, lots of twists and turns.
Okay, so first, let's set the scene. We've got Estrella Domingo. She's the Chief Archivist at the National Archives of the Philippines. We all know it as the NAP.
Big responsibility there.
Huge. So she's basically the one in charge of, all of our super important historical documents.
Right, making sure they're all safe, preserved, all that. Pretty respected figure within the organization, too.
Yeah, she's not just anyone. So it's 2014, and the city of Bacoor sends this request to the NAP. They need some resource speakers for a seminar on records management. Pretty standard stuff, right?
Yeah, sounds pretty routine. Knowledge sharing between government agencies.
Exactly. So at first, everything is approved. Victorino Mapa Manalo, he's the executive director of the NA at the time. He gets, okay, they're going to send a team to Bacoor, Domingo included.
Sounds good so far.
Right. But then, all of a sudden, Manalo puts everything on hold. All training activities are frozen.
Oh, so the Bacoor request is just stuck.
Totally in limbo.
And here's where it gets interesting. Domingo, she gets a personal invitation to speak at a seminar. Same topic, records management. But this time, it's in Tagaytay City, and the dates are different.
So same subject, different seminar. Got it.
Exactly. And the mayor of Bacoor even mentions, straight up in the invitation that this is supposed to replace that earlier request that was, stuck.
Oh, okay, so he's saying, hey, come do this one instead since the other one's on hold.
Yep, basically.
So what does Domingo do? She applies for leave to match up with these new seminar dates and attends the seminar, thinking it's all, in her personal capacity.
Makes sense. She's on leave. It's related to her field.
Right. Nothing suspicious. But then, here's the thing. The city of Bacoor emails the NAP, and they're asking to use the NAP's official seal on their seminar materials.
Uh-oh. So they want the NAP's seal for a seminar that Domingo's attending while she's on personal leave?
Exactly. And that's when everything starts to kind of blow up for Domingo.
So what happens? What are they accusing her of?
Well, she's hit with these accusations of conducting a seminar that wasn't approved, using NAP materials without permission, and get this, deliberately hiding information from the NAP.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah, it gets intense. And the NAP actually finds her guilty of grave misconduct, serious dishonesty, and conduct prejudicial to the service.
Those are the big guns.
Right. And as a result, she is dismissed from her position.
Right, fired. For going to a seminar she thought she was attending as a private citizen?
That's what it looks like.
So what does she do?
She fights back. Domingo appeals the decision to the Civil Service Commission, the CSC, arguing she didn't do anything wrong.
She's basically saying, hey, I was on approved leave. I wasn't pretending to be anyone I'm not.
Exactly. But the CSC upholds the NAP's ruling, agreeing that she's guilty.
So appeal denied.
Yep. So what does she do? She takes it even higher, appeals to the Court of Appeals.
This is getting serious.
Big-time legal battle now. But unfortunately for Domingo, the Court of Appeals sides with the NAP and the CSC.
Two strikes.
I know, right? So, facing some pretty serious consequences here, she's lost twice. And this is where the Supreme Court comes in.
This is it. The final showdown.
Right. Public servant accused of misconduct, fighting for her job. The lower courts say she's guilty, and now it all comes down to the Supreme Court. But before we hear what they decided, let's pause here. Can you believe this all started with a simple seminar request? Share your reactions in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives like this one.
I know, it's wild, right? 1 minute it's a seminar request, the next minute it's the Supreme Court.
It's crazy. So tell me, what did the Supreme Court decide? I'm dying to know.
Well, get this, the Supreme Court actually overturned the previous rulings.
What? Seriously?
Yep, they said Domingo didn't break any rules.
Wow, that's a huge reversal.
It was a big deal. Everyone was talking about it.
So how did they come to that conclusion? What was their reasoning?
Well, first of all, they pointed out that she was on approved leave, so her being at the seminar, it didn't need any official travel authorization.
Right, because she wasn't there representing the NAP officially.
Exactly. And they also made it clear that there was no proof that she was pretending to represent the NAP.
Oh, right, because the city of Bacoor had contacted the NAP directly about the seal.
Exactly. So it wasn't like she was trying to trick anyone.
So it sounds like the Supreme Court really looked at all the little details to see if she was being sneaky.
Oh, yeah, they were thorough. They even looked at the intellectual property code and pointed out that, the government doesn't actually have the copyright to its materials.
So she didn't do anything illegal by letting them use NAP materials. I always thought anything the government made was automatically copyrighted.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, but it's not that simple.
So that clears her on the using NAP materials thing. But what about the dishonesty and misconduct accusations?
Well, the court said there's no evidence that she got anything personally out of the seminar.
So it wasn't like she was doing it for some kind of personal gain.
Right, which made it seem like she was genuinely tripped to help.
It sounds like they were really trying to figure out what her intentions were.
Yeah, not just like what the rules say, but also, the spirit of the law.
That's interesting because it makes you think about how to balance like being proactive and helpful as a public servant, but also like following rules and procedures so things don't get out of control.
Yeah, for sure. And this case sparked a lot of debate about what it means to act in good faith.
Right, because you don't want to discourage people from being helpful, but you also need some boundaries.
Exactly. And get this, even though the court ruled in Domingo's favor, they said, hey, maybe government offices should have more control over these kinds of seminars, and maybe people who want to be speakers should have their leave requests denied.
Oh, wow. So they're saying, we agree with Domingo in this case, but let's tighten things up so this doesn't happen again.
Exactly. And I think that's important for our listeners, too. This case shows how important it is to know the rules.
Especially when it comes to things like official travel and using government resources.
Absolutely, because you need to know the rules, but you also need to know how they might be interpreted in different situations.
Because even when you think you're doing the right thing, you could get in trouble.
Exactly. And that's why it's always good to, talk to your boss or a lawyer if you're not sure about something.
Better safe than sorry. Right.
Definitely. I mean, this case just shows that the law can be complicated.
Yeah, what's okay one day might not be okay the next.
Exactly. And that's why these cases are so interesting. They help us figure out what the law means and how it works in real life.
So we've got the facts of the case, the lower court decisions, and then the Supreme Court's decision. What do you think? Did the Supreme Court make the right call? Was Domingo really innocent? What do you think about all this? Let us know in the comments. This case really got people thinking and talking, didn't it? It's like, we all know about government bureaucracy and stuff, but this really shows what can happen when rules and personal judgment kind of clash.
Yeah, it's a good example of how things can get complicated really fast.
Totally. And you were talking about some legal concepts earlier. Can we dig into those a little more?
Absolutely. One of the big ones here is substantial evidence. It's the standard of proof they use in administrative cases like this one. Basically, you need more than just accusations. You got to have solid evidence to prove the charges.
So in this case, they didn't think there was enough to prove misconduct or dishonesty.
Right. The Supreme Court looked at the evidence and said, nope, not enough.
And they also looked at Domingo's due process rights.
Right. Absolutely. That's a big deal. Everyone has the right to a fair hearing, to tell their side of the story and challenge the evidence, and to appeal if they think things weren't fair.
So Domingo used all those rights, and in the end, the Supreme Court agreed with her. It really shows how important those procedures are.
It is. Even when it seems like the system is against you, it's there to protect your rights.
That's good to know. And what about good faith? You mentioned that earlier, too.
Right. That basically means assuming someone is acting honestly unless you can prove otherwise.
So even though they didn't say it outright, the court basically decided that Domingo wasn't trying to be sneaky or dishonest.
Yeah, they seem to think it was more like a mistake than anything intentional.
Which is important, right? Because it's not just about what the rules say, but also the intent behind the actions.
Absolutely. It's all about navigating the system, knowing your rights and responsibilities, and making sure you're doing things the right way.
And if you're not sure, always ask.
Exactly. Better to double check than end up in a situation like this.
For sure. So after all this, What do you think our listeners should take away from this whole deep dive?
Well, I think this case is a perfect example of how a seemingly simple situation can become a huge legal battle. And it reminds us that we need to be careful and think things through,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to things like using government resources and representing our agencies.
And know the rules.
Always know the rules, but also don't be afraid to ask questions if you're not sure about something.
Great advice. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of government bureaucracy and a legal system. What do you think, listeners? Did the Supreme Court make the right decision? What lessons can we all learn from Domingo's experience? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations into complex and fascinating topics. Thanks for listening.